We all remember the Pacific Princess, the champagne, the romance, and that legendary theme song that promised love for everyone. But for the crew of the Love Boat, the real journey began once the cameras stopped rolling. Behind those perfect smiles were secret battles, shocking career pivots, and a reality much grittier than the scripts suggested. Who found peace and who was left behind by the tide of Hollywood? Join us as we uncover the true fates of your favorite crew. Subscribe now to keep these memories alive. Number 1. Gavin MacLeod as Captain Stubing. Born February 28, 1931. Gavin was 46 years old when he took command of the Pacific Princess in 1977. To the world, he was the steady, smiling hand of the high seas, but the true tragedy of Gavin's life was the exhausting effort of maintaining that perfect facade while his own world was often adrift in a storm of internal regret. The hidden ache began in the glamorous shadows of New York. While working as a humble elevator operator, he fell for Joan F. Rutvik, a world-class rockette. They married in 1955, but the grueling climb to stardom placed a crushing weight on their home life. After 17 years and 2 sons, the marriage shattered in 1972, leaving Gavin to navigate the peak of his fame with a hollow heart. The darkest chapter was a silent liquid descent. After marrying Patty Kendig in 1974, the pressures of the spotlight fueled a devastating battle with alcoholism. This was the silent wreckage behind the scenes, a man directing the romances of others, while his own second marriage disintegrated into a painful divorce. Yet Gavin's story remains one of Hollywood's greatest resurrections. In 1985, after hitting a spiritual rock bottom, he and Patty found a shared anchor in faith and did the unthinkable: they remarried. They spent their remaining decades proving that the hardest voyage is the one back to the people you've hurt. The captain took his final voyage on May 29, 2021, at the age of 90. He passed away at his home in Palm Desert and was interred at Forest Lawn Cemetery. He died with an estimated net worth of $10 million, leaving behind the legacy of a man who proved it is never too late to turn the ship around and find peace. Number 2. Bernie Kopell as Dr. Adam Doc Bricker. Born June 21, 1933. Bernie was 44 years old when he first donned the stethoscope on the Pacific Princess in 1977. While the world saw a suave, ever-smiling resident physician who had a remedy for every heartbreak, the tragedy of Bernie's journey was the silent, grueling marathon of the forever character actor, a man whose face was recognized by billions, yet whose true identity was often swallowed by the very roles that made him famous. Before the luxury of the high seas, Bernie had already mastered the art of being the perfect comedic foil. He was the bumbling chaos agent Siegfried in Get Smart, a role that demanded a frantic, impeccable timing. But the hidden weight of his career was the invisible struggle of the veteran. He was a man who spent decades proving his worth in an industry that rarely offers a leading man's throne to those who are too versatile. He carried the burden of being the man everyone knew, but no one truly saw beyond the lab coat or the villainous accent. For 9 years on the Love Boat, he had to maintain a charming, upbeat persona, playing a man who solved the world's problems while navigating the relentless, repetitive cycle of a television set that demanded he never age and never change. His personal life was a long search for a steady anchorage amidst the fickle tides of Hollywood fame. After early years defined by the solitary pursuit of his craft, Bernie finally found his true home later in life. He married Katrina Honadel in 1997, and together they raised 2 sons, providing him with the familial stability that the swinging bachelor Doc Bricker never truly found. They reside in California, where Bernie has traded the noise of the studio for a life defined by the camaraderie of his peers and the quiet devotion to his family. In 2026, Bernie Kopell is 92 years old. He remains one of the last living titans of the golden age of sitcoms, a man who survived 6 decades in the spotlight without losing his legendary graciousness. He holds an estimated net worth of $3 million. Number 3. Ted Lange as Isaac Washington. Born January 5, 1948. Ted was 29 years old when he first stepped behind the bar of the Pacific Princess in 1977. To millions, he was the man with the $1 million smile and the signature finger point, the ultimate confidant who listened to everyone else's heartaches while mixing the perfect drink. But the hidden tragedy of Ted's decade on the ship was the silent struggle of a multifaceted artist being confined to a service role in the eyes of a global audience. Ted was far more than a cheerful bartender. He was a disciplined creative who had already co-written the gritty film Passing Through. He carried the weight of being a prominent black actor during an era of limited roles, fighting an internal battle to prove he was a visionary capable of directing and writing in an industry that preferred him to stay in uniform. His true victory was moving from in front of the bar to behind the camera, eventually directing over 10 episodes of the series itself. His personal life faced the intense pressure of the 1970s fame machine. He married Cheryl Thompson in 1978, just as the show became a cultural phenomenon. Together, they raised 2 sons, but the grueling demands of a top-rated series eventually took their toll, leading to their divorce in 1989. After a period of deep reflection, Ted found a lasting quiet sanctuary when he married Mary Leigh in 2001. In 2026, Ted Lange is 78 years old. He has successfully transitioned from the man serving drinks to a prolific director of series like Mr. Box Office, finally commanding the stories he once only observed. He holds an estimated net worth of $2 million. He remains a symbol of resilience, a man who spent a decade smiling for the world while quietly building a legacy that proved he was always the one in charge of his own narrative. Number 4. Fred Grandy as Burl Gopher Smith. Born June 29, 1948. Fred was 29 years old when he first stumbled across the deck of the Pacific Princess in 1977. To the world, he was the lovable, clumsy purser who provided the show's physical comedy and wide-eyed charm. But the hidden tragedy of Fred's journey was the stark intellectual disconnect between the man and the mask. He spent a decade playing the bumbling gopher while possessing one of the sharpest minds in the industry, a Harvard-educated intellectual and a former speechwriter who often faced the quiet frustration of being underestimated by an industry that only saw his slapstick timing. The true weight of his story was the grueling struggle to be taken seriously beyond the laugh track. While he brought joy to millions, Fred was privately preparing for a different kind of service, navigating a Hollywood that preferred him to remain a caricature. His personal life reflected these shifting tides. He married his first wife, Jan Goof, in 1969. A union that produced one son but ultimately dissolved under the pressures of his rising television fame. It wasn't until 1987, as the ship finally docked for the last time, that he found a lasting anchor in writer and commentator Catherine Mann. Together, they made the rare, brave choice to leave the spotlight behind for the high-stakes world of Capitol Hill. Fred's second act became a masterclass in self-reinvention. He successfully traded the Pacific Princess for the halls of power, serving 4 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives and later leading Goodwill Industries as CEO. He proved that the man behind the clumsy persona was in fact a statesman of remarkable depth and civic dedication, using his fame as a bridge to meaningful public service rather than a permanent home. In 2026, Fred Grandy is 77 years old. He remains a respected voice in political commentary, living with an estimated net worth of $2 million. He stands as a reminder that the most compelling journeys are often found in the chapters we write after the cameras stop rolling, a man who proved he could lead a nation just as well as he could lead a laugh. Number 5. Lauren Tewes as Julie McCoy. Born October 26, 1953. Lauren was only 23 years old when she became the world's most recognizable cruise director in 1977. To millions, she was the epitome of sunshine and efficiency, the girl next door who promised a perfect voyage. But the hidden tragedy of Lauren's journey was the crushing weight of overnight superstardom on a young woman who had only just begun to find her footing. Behind that iconic Julie McCoy smile was a person slowly drowning in the dark undercurrents of the 1970s Hollywood drug culture, fighting a battle that the cameras were never meant to see. The true ache of her story lay in the public nature of her descent. At the height of the show's global success, her struggle with addiction led to her being replaced, a move that felt less like a professional exit and more like a cold abandonment by the family she had helped build. She was the face of the ship, yet she was cast adrift at her most vulnerable moment. Her personal life was marked by further profound sorrow. After finding a sense of stability with her husband Robert Nader, she was left widowed in the 1990s. She was forced to navigate the hollow silence of grief in the shadow of a fame that had already moved on to the next bright thing. However, Lauren's legacy is defined by a rare and quiet resilience. She didn't wait for Hollywood to rescue her. She reinvented herself with remarkable dignity. She stepped away from the red carpets to attend culinary school, eventually becoming a professional chef and cheese specialist. She traded the script for the kitchen, proving that a life is not defined by its darkest chapter. When she eventually returned for reunions, she did so with a brutal honesty about her scars, becoming a survivor who refused to hide the reality of her voyage. In 2026, Lauren Tewes is 72 years old. She lives a life of hard-won peace, maintaining an estimated net worth of $500,000. While she may not have the massive fortune of her peers, her true wealth is found in the courage it took to survive the storm. Number 6. Jill Whelan as Vicky Stubing. Born September 29, 1966. Jill was only 11 years old when she first stepped aboard the Pacific Princess. While she quickly became the sweetheart of the seas, the hidden tragedy of Jill's journey was the silent, relentless pressure of a childhood surrendered to the lens of a camera. She didn't just play the captain's daughter. She became the surrogate daughter for an entire generation, growing up in a glass house where every awkward stage of adolescence was broadcast to millions, leaving very little room for a private life. Before the fame of the high seas, Jill was already a disciplined child professional, moving from commercials to the short-lived series Friends. But the Love Boat was a different kind of anchor. She spent her most formative years navigating the complexities of adult storylines and the grueling schedules of a top-rated show, a life where her milestones were marked by scripts rather than school dances. The quiet weight she carried was the expectation to remain the perfect, precocious girl, while she was internally trying to figure out who she was outside of the Vicky Stubing persona. As the show concluded, Jill made the brave and rare choice to step back and reclaim her own narrative. She moved to England to attend Guildford College, a deliberate move to find an identity that wasn't tied to a television set. Though she continued to grace the screen in shows like Fantasy Island, Vega Dollars, and The Young and the Restless, she approached the industry with a new sense of boundaries. She transitioned from a child star into a respected creative professional and radio personality, successfully avoiding the typical pitfalls of early fame by prioritizing her own intellectual and emotional growth over the pursuit of the spotlight. In 2026, Jill Whelan is 59 years old. She has built a life of stability and purpose, serving as a creative spokesperson and maintaining a deep connection to the fans who watched her grow up. With an estimated net worth of $1,500,000, her true legacy is her resilience. The story of a girl who navigated the turbulent waters of child stardom and emerged as a woman who finally owns her own horizon. Number 7. Ted McGinley as Ashley Ace Covington Evans. Born October 29, 1958. Ted was just 25 years old when he joined the crew in 1984. While he was brought on as the dashing ship's photographer to inject new energy into the series, the hidden tragedy of Ted's career was the unfair stigma that followed him for decades. Often jokingly labeled the show jumper or series killer by critics for joining hit shows, in their later seasons he faced the immense invisible pressure of being the fresh blood tasked with saving iconic franchises that were already nearing their natural end. Before boarding the Pacific Princess, Ted was a collegiate water polo star and a high-fashion model who had already braved the daunting task of joining Happy Days after the departure of major leads. The quiet burden he carried was the constant comparison to the legends who came before him. He had to possess a thick skin and a relentless work ethic to navigate a Hollywood that often used him as a beautiful band-aid for aging ratings, yet he did so with a professional grace that rarely allowed the stigma to affect his performance. In an industry of fleeting fame, Ted's private life has been a bastion of remarkable stability. He married actress Gigi Rice in 1991, and for over 30 years they have maintained one of the most grounded and enduring marriages in the business. Together, they raised 2 sons intentionally, keeping their family life away from the tabloid circus. He traded the heartthrob narrative for the role of a devoted family man, proving that his true character was far more substantial than the pretty boy roles he was often cast in. In 2026, Ted McGinley is 67 years old. He has successfully outlasted his critics, moving from The Love Boat to a legendary run on Married, with children, and continuing to work steadily in both comedy and drama. With an estimated net worth of $5 million, His legacy is one of pure professional longevity, a man who proved that being the finishing touch on a great series is a craft all its own, and that surviving Hollywood is the greatest victory of all. Number 8. Pat Klous as Judy McCoy, born October 19, 1948. Pat was 35 years old when she boarded the Pacific Princess in 1984. To the audience, she was the sophisticated and capable new cruise director, but the hidden tragedy of Pat's journey was the silent weight of the replacement narrative. She was tasked with the monumental challenge of succeeding the beloved Lauren Tewes, stepping into an established television family and convincing a global audience that the ship's heart was still intact. It was a role that required her to be a mirror of her predecessor while fighting to establish her own identity, a difficult balance in a world that often resists change. Before the maritime world, Pat was a titan of the high fashion industry. As a top model for the legendary Elite Model Management, her face had already graced the world's most prestigious magazines, and she had starred in the series Flying High. She brought a unique, polished elegance to the deck, yet she carried the quiet burden of knowing that in Hollywood, being the new version of a classic character often comes with an expiration date. She spent her years on the show delivering a seamless professional performance while navigating the reality that she was filling shoes that the public wasn't yet ready to let go of. As the series concluded, Pat made a rare and dignified choice that few in her position ever do. She simply walked away. She recognized that her time in the spotlight was a beautiful chapter, but not her entire book. She transitioned into a life of absolute privacy, intentionally choosing a peaceful existence far from the relentless demands of the camera and the gossip of the industry. She traded the noise of the studio for a quiet, stable life, proving that true success isn't always found in staying famous, but in knowing when to find your own harbor. In 2026, Pat Klous is 77 years old. She lives a meaningful life away from the public eye, maintaining an estimated net worth of $1 million. She remains a symbol of the graceful transition, a woman who brought the poise of the runway to the television screen and then had the clarity to live the rest of her story on her own terms. Number 9. Teri Hatcher as Amy the Mermaid, born December 8, 1964. Teri was just 20 years old when she joined the crew in 1985 as one of the singing and dancing mermaids. While she appeared in 19 episodes as a nameless siren of the sea, the hidden tragedy of Teri's early years was the long, grueling climb from the sidelines of the NFL to the peak of Hollywood. She navigated an industry that initially saw her only as a background dancer, while she quietly harbored the ambition that would later define a generation of television. The true weight of her journey was the physical and emotional price she paid for her eventual superstardom. From her iconic turn as Lois Lane to her legendary run on Desperate Housewives, she often pushed herself to the breaking point, suffering fractured ribs and eye injuries on set in the pursuit of perfection. Her private life also faced the turbulence of 2 marriages that ended in divorce, leaving her to navigate the pressures of fame while raising her daughter Emerson largely in the public eye. Yet she found her true anchor in philanthropy, earning multiple Nobel and humanitarian awards for her dedicated service to children and families in need. In 2026, Teri Hatcher is 61 years old. She has evolved from a background mermaid into a celebrated author and industry titan with an estimated net worth of $50 million. Her legacy is one of remarkable tenacity, a performer who proved that you can start your journey in the background and end up as the most recognizable face on television, provided you have the strength to endure the waves along the way. Number 10. Florence Henderson as Annabelle Folker, born February 14, 1934. Florence was 43 years old when she first boarded the Pacific Princess in 1977. While the audience saw her as the gold standard of guest stars, eventually playing a record-breaking 10 different characters across the series, the real weight of Florence's journey was the quiet challenge of reclaiming her artistry in the towering shadow of an icon. She arrived on deck as arguably the most famous woman on television, yet she spent a decade proving she was much more than the perfect mother the world had locked her into. Before the champagne and the cruise itineraries, Florence was a Broadway powerhouse who had originated leading roles in productions like Fanny. The hidden depth of her story was the transition from being a dominant star of the stage to being a guest in everyone else's house. She handled the heavy typecasting of the post-Brady era with regal discipline, using her rotating roles on the Love Boat from the eccentric Annabelle Folker to the eventual Mrs. Merrill Stubing, as a playground to showcase the versatility that the industry had often overlooked. In her private life, Florence carried her history with a dignified, almost effortless poise. She navigated the complexities of raising 4 children and the shifts of 2 marriages with a groundedness that was rare in Hollywood. She refused to let the industry's narrow view of aging define her, remaining a vibrant, active presence in the entertainment world until her very last days. She was a woman who understood that her true power lay in her warmth, but she never allowed that warmth to be mistaken for weakness. Florence Henderson passed away on November 24, 2016 at the age of 82. She died with an estimated net worth of $10 million, leaving behind a legacy that transcends any single character. Number 11. Marian Ross as Emily Stubing. Born October 25, 1928. Marian was 58 years old when she eventually married Captain Stubing in the 1986 series finale. While the world primarily celebrated her as the quintessential mother on Happy Days, her recurring roles on The Love Boat, culminating in her becoming the captain's wife, allowed her to showcase a sophisticated romantic maturity. Before her iconic TV status, Marian was a seasoned professional of the 1950s, building her craft in films like The Glenn Miller Story and mastering the discipline of live television. Marian's journey was one of remarkable professional and personal stamina. After nearly 20 years of marriage and 2 children, she navigated a divorce from Freeman Meskimen in 1969, a transition she handled with a focus on her family and her rising career. She later found a deep and lasting partnership with actor Paul Michael, whom she married in 1988 and remained with until his passing. Even in her later years, Marian proved she was a woman of principle. In 2011, she joined her former co-stars in a legal effort to ensure actors received their fair share of merchandising revenue, a stand for professional respect that resulted in a principled settlement. In 2026, Marian Ross is 97 years old. Having officially retired from the screen, she enjoys a legacy defined by warmth, integrity, and incredible endurance. With an estimated net worth of $10 million, she remains one of the most respected figures of television's golden age. A performer who proved that you can play everyone's mother while remaining the undisputed captain of your own life and career.